Steph, did you send out the meeting agenda?
I've got it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Steph did send it out.
I can resend if you'd like.
That's okay. I'll find it. There it is.
Oh, who'd we lose? We lost Wendy.
She's just sitting in an Airbnb with all the housekeeping done. She shouldn't have problems.
Oh, there we go. Oh.
Haley and I were talking about how messy or clean our houses are. And
Yeah,
perfect.
don't look behind me.
And we were jealous, and she said, "Oh, I'm in an Airbnb, so no clutter, got a cleaner."
I know. I don't know where she went to though.
See Jason's.
Jason's joining us.
No,
Yeah, Jason's here. I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you. We can't see you. Whether or not.
Yeah, I'm on the ferry, so I'm managing my bandwidth.
There we go.
Randy, you're back.
All right. Shall
I think
we?
I'm ready. Yep, let's do it. Mhm.
All right. So has everybody had a look at the agenda? Anybody need to add anything in there? I have an addition, but anybody else?
I have no items.
Wendy wanted to talk a bit about some more bike safety with some particular issues that she's come across herself. So I don't know if we need to add that in itself or add that as a part of the
Was that what I sent you a message about?
yeah.
That wasn't my bicycle, that was a car.
Oh, that was a car. Oh,
Yeah, well,
okay,
I
never
almost-
mind. Car
yeah.
safety.
Car safety.
Okay, I was gonna say,
So we can do 6.2, or would that be traffic calming, Emma?
traffic calming would probably fit in with that. It depends on,
Well, it won't take long.
Okay, we'll see.
we're gonna add that into traffic calming.
Sure.
Was that it?
Come with me.
Alrighty. Move that the agenda be adopted. Everybody for?
Yep.
Against?
Yep.
Yep.
Carried. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah.
Way back when?
Yes.
Any additions or edits or corrections?
Nope.
Nope. Move to adopt the minutes from the June 11th, 2020 meeting. All for? Against?
Or yeah.
Against?
Yep.
Carried.
4.
I guess I should be slower. Sorry, guys. Okay. No public comments. How about action items? Move on to that on page 8. If everybody wants to look at it. So from the top here, we have Wendy, Ely, and Councillor Hocking and Emma to meet as subcommittee to plan the bike banner launch event, which we did. Check. We'll report on that in a bit. Number 2, Steph with Councillor Hocking, Ely, and Jason to poll for a site visit. We did that. That was when we went on our walk with Patrick. The other previous meeting, we've got Emma Chow asked the senior bylaw officer if Family Day can be added to the list of dates for ferry marshalling in 2021. Done? Just so you know, Emma, your mic's off. I don't know if you guys care. Tyler, number 2, Tyler, include an ask of BC Ferries for data regarding overload timing at next FAC meeting, i.e. at what time did the boat fill, to get a better sense of how overload and saturated data overloads are. I can't read. How did that go, Tyler?
There's been no FAC meetings
Oh, right.
since COVID.
Can I also add to the request, Tyler? They normally send us the just their normal sailing data, like number of passengers and cars. I haven't seen it this year. I've sent off an email to Darren Gwinnett and have not heard anything.
I have seen those. I'll probably be able to find them and just send them to you.
Awesome, thanks.
The number 3, same, will have to be include medically assured loading at the next FAC meeting. So that'll be next time. Number 4, Scott, who is no longer with us.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
No, I mean, no longer a member of BIMTAC. Scott is very well, just dealing with all the school hubbub. Was there, I guess there wasn't another way for that information to be gotten other than him and his inside scoop, or?
I think he mentioned that. Didn't he send an email to them?
But the double map.
Oh,
is
you're right.
working.
Sorry, I'm thinking this was something else. I was thinking this was number of high school students. Yeah, he did. He did do that. Ongoing actions. Look into what other small islands do regarding ferry marshalling. Has anybody been doing any of that? Going and visiting other islands and seeing what they do? I haven't. Tyler, reach out to wheelchair user group with illustrations, solicit feedback on proposed connections, and report back to committee by email. Done, but more follow-up required.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna, that issue doesn't seem to be an issue anymore. Last conversation I had with the Caring Circle.
Cross it off.
Yeah.
Cross it off.
So
Cross it off. Done. Okay. Emma, approach First Transit regarding free rides for the commuter parking for handicapped or mobility impaired commuters.
Not doing that.
It's not happening. Cross it off. Okay.
Okay. And that's that for all of those.
Good job.
Next, we have updates. We've got Tyler with our update on FAC, which hasn't happened. No meetings,
I
but
can still give a run through. So I was negligent and didn't talk to Melanie early enough to get her input, but from what I've seen, there was a site visit for the terminal. I think that was just last week. I wasn't able to attend. I'm not sure if anybody from this group was able to attend.
I was, so I'll talk about that when you're done, Tyler.
Okay, there's a lot of student concern emails floating around through the FAC and from Darren. All the policies they're developing tend to go on their website and be public. So I haven't gone through those, but in general, it's mostly been them saying it's going to be okay. And then even the student, if the student tests positive for COVID or shows symptoms, they're basically supposed to just ideally be picked up by a parent and otherwise make it home on the ferry while giving BC Ferries advance notice. So there's not a whole lot of special procedure being done by BC Ferries other than to let them know that you are showing symptoms if you're going to go on as a foot passenger, and they'll try and isolate you. The province has completed their first round of their visioning exercise for BC Ferries, which is worth looking through if you have some time. There's a WebEx demo of the new website, which is the big news for BC Ferries right now. Today, I think it's 1 o'clock, I'm supposed to attend that. There was conversation about the TAP form, and the outcome of that was that TAP forms, so if you're going to get COVID testing off island and you want to use a TAP form, you need a signature from a Bowen Island doctor. There was a all chairs meeting for the FAC, and I believe the minutes should be on the website. The topics discussed were largely the COVID impact on BC Ferries, the new website. That seemed to be the two major priorities to that meeting. There was conversations about BC Ferries eventually receiving funding from the province and the federal government. And There were schedule changes previous to that, which have all sort of settled down. And that's all I've got since June.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
Sure, I could add a little bit about the meeting. So there were the meeting with BC Ferries around the redevelopment of our Snug Cove terminal. And there were 2 meetings, so Emma can add anything. There was one a week and a half ago, a Friday ago, and that was Emma and I and Liam, and with 3 folks from BC Ferries. And then it was the same thing this last Friday. And I talked to Melanie before to just give her an update on what happened in the first meeting. I haven't talked to Melanie since, so I don't know what happened in the second meeting. But in the first one, we talked about a number of things. The folks who we met with were pretty great. They were engineer types who sort of looked creatively at problem solving. So often with BC Ferries in the past, it was sort of why you couldn't do things, but these folks were more in the category of, oh, let's have a look at this. Let's see what can be done. The main issue that I raised was one that we talked about at BIMTAC a few years ago. I don't really remember when. So this was an earlier iteration of BIMTAC, when we had our own sort of walk around at our Snug Cove terminal, and we realized there's a whole lot of land that is covered in blackberries and brambles and stuff. That's down the old place where the little shelter is, the fiberglass shelter, fiberglass and metal shelter, not the big one. Right behind where we used to park the bikes, there's a whole bunch of low land. And so what we were hoping is that land could be used so that there actually could be a bus turnaround, so that the buses, instead of being up far away where folks would have a walk before they would get to the bus, and the buses would be quite delayed compared to cars. If we thought we could get the buses right down, it would be right down to where the terminal is. It would be much better for people who have accessibility issues, and better for encouraging people to get on the bus because they could get out of there quickly. So they had a look at that, and they agreed that there was something that was worth looking at. It's possible. But the interesting thing is they also looked at, when they walked around into the shelter that council built about 10, 15 years ago, they realized that the water between the BC Ferries land and the shelter is actually quite shallow, and they could actually build that area out either by filling that area in or put a couple of concrete piers in and make a much bigger turnaround that really did make that idea quite feasible. They also talked about whatever they did at the terminal, they wanted to make sure it aligned with changes that they would need to make in 15 years or so, when they would need to redo the ramp. Apparently it would be too old and need to be replaced. When they redo the ramp, they want to align it more straight so that ferries could come straight in rather than to have to do the big turn that they currently do. And that would allow easier landing, but also would allow larger ferries, if need be, to come in. Because of that turn, larger ferries can't really fit into the terminal. And that whole ramp, that whole extension of the turning radius idea fitted into that idea quite nicely. They got kind of interested in that. So anyway, they said they would follow up and look into it and sketch some things out. So that's as far as we got, I feel. But generally, I felt that they listened to us about the idea of trying to improve things for foot passengers, accessibility, and transit. Emma, what did I leave out?
That was, yeah, all the good bits.
Yeah, it was generally.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah, it was generally pretty good.
What kind of a timeline would there be on that turnaround if it took place?
That was a good question. We don't know. They don't know because they don't know what their capital situation is. You know, everything's so much up in the air. They're just moving forward because it was supposed to be moving forward. But whether that will then have a delay, they couldn't answer that question. It's all, pretty uncertain about how things will sort of gradually move forward in this COVID world and maybe the post-COVID world. The discussion about BC Ferries makes me realize there was something I should have put on the agenda. And I don't know, Steph or Eli.
Part of the ferries update.
We actually had, for UBCM, we had meetings with several ministers around transportation issues. Some of them were BC Ferries issues, but it goes a bit more. So I'd like to add that to the agenda, if I could. just an update on the meetings, the UBCM ministers meetings, how that went. Because there were a couple of transportation issues. Is that okay, folks?
Yeah.
Add that to the agenda so late?
5.5
Sure.
6.3 maybe, or
or
6.2.
6.3, 6.2,
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
6.3.
I was just going to ask if anyone wanted a visual. I have the ortho of Snug Cove ferry terminal. If anyone want to have a visual of what we're talking about, do you want me to share a screen?
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Can everyone see this?
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Excellent. Yeah, so this is the current ferry ramp. And as David had mentioned, longer term BC Ferries would like to straighten that out a bit in this direction. And the area that they own right now is this piece of land right here where the bathroom is and the old septic field, which they no longer need. And they are thinking of filling in this little triangle of water or building over it to connect to the dock and increasing this whole land for vehicle pedestrian use. Does my arrow show up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Perfect. It's great, Emma. This is really great. Thanks, Emma, for doing this because it makes it clear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
One of the issues that they raised loading, unloading, stuff like that, and the possibility of doing 2-lane loading by having overhead lights like the kind they have on the, in Stanley Park when you're zooming through Stanley Park, the Causeway and so on. And one of the issues they raised, though, is, okay, if everybody walks off and gets on the bus, it'll take a while and that'll delay the cars leaving. And we had a bit of a discussion about that, and it would be possible to, and while that's true, people would be probably still climbing onto the bus and then the cars would just be sitting there. I mean, for me, I like the idea of putting the priority to the 20 people who are on the bus instead of the one person that's driving a car. But okay, that one simple thing you could do, again, if they're setting up these lights, if the bus driver or somebody could just click a light which shows red and the cars would just stop for a second and the buses would get out of there. Something like that so that they could get out. We did point out that in other cities, you actually have to, it's the law that you have to yield to buses. And so this would be just some sort of version of that. But that was one of the details that was discussed a little bit.
Billy, I wanted to just ask Tyler something about the FAC communications.
Yeah, for sure.
So I included a couple of links on the agenda because we did get some correspondence for staff. I think it went to council as well about Ferry Advisory Committee information being buried was the term that was used. I don't know if you remember this, David.
Yeah.
So and that was only one person, but it did flag a few historical concerns. It was my response to that was to bring the links from BC Ferry's site where the Ferry Advisory Committee minutes are posted, pull that up instead of just having the written report from you guys in the BIMTAC meeting agenda and minutes. I've actually provided the BC Ferry's link on our page. And then, but I have had some people, some concerns expressed about transparency of what's happening with the Ferry Advisory Committee. And so I went to the website, and so I've got the summary notes page on BC Ferry's website. And the last one I see there, I think is 2018 or something. And then our upcoming meetings page, it's at 2018. And the last minutes posted is on a different page, and that's a little bit out of date as well. I don't see any record of the all chairs meeting. And I actually ran into Susanna Braun and was asking her about, like, to what extent are the all chairs meeting, is it confidential or proprietary or whatever? And she seemed to think that they're worthy of reporting on. I don't know if we want to take this offline or if I should just deal directly with BC Ferries, but it doesn't feel like it's really obvious, the information for people. Of course, this was triggered by the concerns about the student transportation. Trying to send people to a place for information was, didn't go very well.
Yeah, so this is a funny spot with Bowen's FAC because the FAC is not normally part of a municipal committee. BC Ferries sees it as a standalone item, and because Melanie is not part of this committee, it largely ends up being run that way. That the FAC is not part of BIMTAC. So I don't know if there's a larger discussion to be had about whether that partnership between BIMTAC and the FAC remains. Like I am the vice chair, but I don't see the FAC email goes to Melanie alone. So unless she responds all, I don't even see all of what's happening until she provides an update. So there's definitely not 100%, there is not 100% representation of the FAC in BIMTAC because I'm not Melanie. So I guess part of the question is, should there be? The other thing is the FAC hasn't met since
That might be, and neither
a
is
year ago.
that often. Yeah, that might, yeah.
And it's also twice a year. So the issues that people may want to send to BC Ferries should probably be sent to their complaints email, customer service email, and the FAC should be CC'd. The FAC doesn't have a forum to take concerns of the moment to BC Ferries. Like the most powerful method for complaint is a customer service email, because that triggers a can't remember what they call it, but basically a service item. So their team has to clear that complaint with an official response. If you call, I believe it does not trigger the same. They get to make a judgment as to whether that makes a ticket, but I believe all emailed complaints receive a ticket that needs to be tracked and responded to. So that's always been the guidance that's been given to us, is if the public has a complaint, it should go to the BC Ferries customer service and CC the FAC.
So do you guys have a Facebook page or something? Is there?
I'm not on Facebook. I'm not
on Facebook either. That's why. So I guess.
I think Melanie does respond to things that are currently hot topics, as far as I know, on there.
Right.
But I think she responds from her personal account and takes that on.
Yeah.
But I think.
So I think there was sorry, Ellie.
I was just saying, I was just thinking, like, is there a will or a possibility that Tyler, you sort of become more of a in-between? You are already, but for things like those chair only meetings and stuff like that, like to have you get the minutes and pass them on to us. I don't know how that works, or if you're even interested in being that in-between kind of thing.
Well, I think that, we've discussed it. I was too late to ask Melanie for input this time,
Right.
but they don't generate, she doesn't often generate her own set of minutes. So it's the BC Ferries minutes that I get at the end, which are normally on their website anyway.
Okay.
So I could look into the FAC chairs one. If that one's not, I could ask to see if I could pass that one along. But in general, there's nothing formal that I can easily take from Melanie and pass along if she's not generating minutes and the BC Ferries minutes don't capture all that much detail.
Right.
So I could make a better effort to contact her for input, but unless she wants to provide routine, I guess, what are we looking for? Are we looking to act as a conduit?
Well, generally with committees, if there's a subcommittee, they're handing in written notes.
Yeah.
All of my other committees, the subcommittees submit written notes, and that's what has been happening. There's irregularities this year, but there would normally be like notes attached to the FAC update. There'd be some notes there.
But I'll just speak to this for a minute. The situation we're in right now is quite different from how it's been forever, as far as I can remember. The FAC was really a chunk of BIMTAC, and this isn't how it was supposed to be from BC Ferries, because they were supposed to be an independent organization, whereas it was really a council subcommittee in a sense. And the reasons for that, BC Ferries are a pretty important part of our community in so many ways. And it's a huge part of our, strategic transportation plans. So that's why it was all appropriate and there was a lot of interest. By separating it into the way that BC Ferries wants it separated, it really changed the situation quite a bit. The FAC in the past also was a kind of a lobby organization when things went wrong with BC Ferries, as they would tend to do every now and then. Then all heck would break loose with the FAC. But so I don't know how to address this, because it's really, I'm not very comfortable with the situation, because the public sort of sees council as somehow accountable for whatever goes on with BC Ferries, but of course we're not. And then the way the situation works now, we don't even have much of a connection unless we just, contact them ourselves. So I'm sorry, I'm not having any suggestions here other than to say this isn't the way it used to be, and it does have some inherent problems. I could sit down and talk to Melanie, but I'm not sure.
Maybe I'll try to work on more visibility of what's on the BC Ferries website. And
that's
really
fine.
valuable. When you were just saying there, I think you used the word conversations, Tyler, and you were talking about emails. Is that correct? Like
Yes.
That was really valuable, just for us to get a sense of what the themes are of the emails that are coming around. So it could be a lot to do with our BIMTAC meeting and our reporting structure. Sorry, David, were you going to say something?
Yeah, the BC website, we have the information posted. That's great. But the trouble is it's a pretty distilled,
Yeah.
A lot of the detail, and especially the controversial bits, just might not be there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's useful, but not perfect.
So I guess my suggestion is, especially late, my ability to put more time into volunteer positions has not been there for the last 8 months.
No. That's not what I was suggesting.
I know, but I think if we want a better update than what happens to come through me just by circumstance, then the only thing I could suggest is that we formally reach out to Melanie as part of preparation of the agenda from BIMTAC, not just me, but we write the FAC when we start putting together the agenda for that update as part of process. Even if you want me to send it, that's fine, but
or I
just
can
make it a routine action item that as part of that preparation, we ask FAC for input.
Yeah, I think
that's a great idea.
Good, Tyler. it could go both directions as well. So from BIMTAC into FAC and then FAC back out after whatever happens to BIMTAC. That's a great idea.
Even if it's my action item, if it's formal, I'll pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Or let's not have you. It can be Illy and
I can do that. I can reach
Okay.
out to her for sure. So.
And then I'm gonna maybe speak a little bit to BC Ferries about how crappy their website, how buried it is now. It's like 1970s dot matrix. Anyways, thank you for that.
No problem.
Anything else on the any fact update, anything? How about we go on to 5.2, the bike banner launch, which was
sorry, I wasn't here when you sent me that email about it. But if you want to give the update, I can share a screen with some photos.
yeah, sure. It was more I wanted to talk about because I guess I didn't get the chance to talk to Bronwyn at the Undercurrent. She never contacted me, and I'd love to get across some of the things that I noticed there, particularly how non-receptive most of the people were. But yeah, if you want to share some photos, and
Sure.
That'd be great. So really, we had these awesome kids, right?
Those are great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And can you stay on the banner for a sec? So So, but yeah, the car has to go quite a ways around.
A lot of them took a wide berth, I guess big orange thing on the ground, but some of them actually rolled right over the car and they were still in the lane.
Okay.
So Ely, when you said that people weren't very positive, what did you mean by that?
So it was more specifically when we were up on just past the school there,
Yeah.
right at the end of the hydro bike lane.
Yep.
It was, let me just say that all the kids got a very good taste of what swear words look like when they're mouthed.
Seriously.
Seriously. So it was, I mean, it was a bit of a gong show because there was lots of traffic coming down, lots of traffic going up. There was a pedestrian trying to walk on the other side of the road. Everybody was stopped. Nobody knew, like they, but it, people were upset that there was this thing that was in their way. But, I mean, quite frankly, if there had been a bunch of bikers there, like us standing there, they would have had to have done the same thing. But it was very interesting to see. I was very disappointed in how people had taken it. The police officer was supposed to be joining us and he was late. And I did notice that as soon as he joined us, people suddenly were much friendlier.
I noticed that too.
So as soon as the cop showed up,
Had the sirens on.
Okay, yeah, people were like, oh, this is something official, not just something to like, get in my way of going wherever I'm going. So it was just a little disheartening to see that. And I don't know how to change that sort of mentality.
I think
So
it's a cultural shift.
Yeah.
And also we did get quite a few people that were also very supportive that
No, we
took
did.
their time and smiled and waved and honked. And so
that was more after the cop showed up though. So anyways, it just made me really think like how can we get across to drivers that it's not just their road, like, I don't know how to do that.
I think events like this definitely help to kind of acclimatize them, normalize them, I guess, to, sharing the road with other users.
Yep.
Well,
No, and I mean, as far as anything other than that, there was, other feedback that I got was there was a letter from Jean and Jim Coker, where their only concern was that 1 meter is maybe too little when you're dealing with driving past kids, right? So, but other than that, I mean, once the cop showed up, everyone did seem to relax. It was also after the big, huge, jam was sort of passed at that point and everything. But I think this is a good thing to do. And if it is something that is done more on a regular basis or something, then you're right. Maybe it's just people will get used to it and finally understand that they have to share the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry I wasn't there. I screwed up somehow. I was supposed to be there. But I think, yeah, do it again. It is really disappointing. It's a funny thing about drivers in cars. I sort of liken it to the way people behave on social media. It's like they shake their fist at people because how dare you slow me down in a car? They'll do things that they'd never do if they were a pedestrian trying to pass people. Just like on social media, you behave in ways that you'd never behave face to face to people. So a whole lot of drivers think the roads are meant for them and nobody else.
Yeah.
And we just got to do it again and again.
Do we have the capacity to do it again? Knowing now school started.
Yeah, now that school started, it's a bit different. Yeah.
You mentioned something, Emma. You mentioned a day that we might redo it, like a new kind of cycle to work, cycle to school week that might be incorporated.
Yeah, Hub, the bicycling advocacy organization, I'm not sure what to call them. They had promoted a new bike to school week for the fall. And I've emailed all our principals and I haven't heard back from any of them whether or not they were interested or if they registered. But I thought if they did, we could partner with them to do an event during that week. but I haven't heard from any of them.
Okay, that's a good idea, Emma. Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think there would be any benefit to having a, for relatively short amounts of time, but maybe not necessarily having to have a physical person there, but having a bike with one of those pool noodles or a sign right in front of it or something that just kind of lives on the side of the road at those spots, for a little bit, and people get used to it and see it and everything,
We'll run it over.
or run it over
Yeah.
and set it on fire. But, I don't know, like maybe something like that. I don't know.
Possibly.
I have a few bikes that I would be willing to sacrifice.
I think there are a lot more, I've seen a lot more cyclists on Bowen since the weather got nice and COVID, because there's so many more people traveling that way in BC just to enjoy BC.
Yeah.
I noticed way more bikes on the road.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I think if we can keep this up, more and more people cycling on the roads, is just going to become expected that you're going to meet up with a bicycle and that you're going to have to be careful.
Yeah.
We
No.
also had a collision.
Yeah. That was
Mhm.
not
You
fun.
saw collision, right?
There was a collision at the corner of Grafton and Artisan Lane.
Oh,
there.
okay.
Somebody
Mhm.
doing a left-hand turn and a bike was coming down apparently.
Oh, no, really? Oh.
So I was there I didn't see the accident, but I was there in the aftermath when everybody was attending to her. And I'm really glad to hear that she is okay, because she didn't sound like she was okay at all.
Whoa, you mean someone on a bike got hit by someone making the left turn and didn't see them?
I
or-
believe that was what happened. Yeah, I didn't see the accident myself, but just what was happening after, because I was there right after it happened, kind of thing. So, but yeah, brutal.
Whoa, jeez.
Mm.
So I think my suggestion, if we're going to do more of these events, if you had any hostility, is that we don't do them without the RCMP. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be putting yourself in a position where you're getting public hostility when you're trying to, encourage kids to be there and school safety. That should probably be a policy, or at
Yeah,
least
it was really unfortunate for the kids, that really affected them. So
I wonder if the timing of it, we wanted to get the most people, but you're
Mhm.
also at the end of the day, people coming home from work, wanting to get home, they're already.
well, they're gonna have to deal with the bike if it's on the road, whether they're cranky or not,
Yeah, but they might have felt manipulated. I think people felt manipulated.
I think so too. Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. Change can be difficult to create change, but I think the awareness of the dangers of cycling have been exemplified, and that the need for a bike path across the island, it's necessary.
Mhm.
You get the bikes off the road and everybody's going to be happy. Everybody, the users and the car drivers.
Yep. Anyways, I think that I hope that it was beneficial, and that some people realize the amount of space that they need to give and all that kind of stuff. And I think we should do something like that again. So.
So too.
So I'd just like to add a little bit. I agree to do it more, but I also agree, I think Tyler's point is really important. Make sure the police are there. Also, to do it when the ferry's a late afternoon or early evening ferry is unloading, it's true. That's a tough time. People have had a long day. It's a crazy, awful commute, and it's easy to get people stressed. It's true that we need to find more people, but I think you still get lots of people at other times. And for that, coming off around 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it's when the ferry unloads, it's a bit too stressful probably.
but also that
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that location might have made your point a bit too strongly. That is one of the locations that is problematic, and we might actually want to stage this in places that aren't problematic, so that a car driver can take in the situation, see the lesson that we're trying to convey without actually having to navigate the situation. Because that pinch point is a dangerous spot when cyclists are merging back onto the road from that short bit of bike lane. And it's probably too much for most drivers to handle, the visual distraction of the kids, the pool noodles, oncoming traffic, and I can see them just, coming to a stop and being frustrated.
Do you think there would be value in, if we do this again, liaising with the RCMP to get sort of their input?
Yeah, good idea. Sure.
I've noticed too road rage at cyclists, like shameless, screeching of tires, shaking of fists, yelling because they had to pass a cyclist in front of Grafton Lake, that nice straightaway.
Wow.
Oh, I
I stopped to tell a friend, we just got my dog out of the car, we're going for a walk, and you wouldn't believe how rude this person was. And as I'm telling you what had happened, it happened right in front of our eyes.
Wow.
Where the entitlement came from, how angry these people were, multiple people, because they had to go around a cyclist on that straightaway.
I had a van cut me off, merging. They were coming back onto the road from the water treatment plant road, and they cut me off seemingly intentionally, pulled out screeching tires right in front of me when I was on a bike, and almost caused a crash with the oncoming traffic. The lady oncoming had to slam on her brakes, and it just about hit the back of the van.
I'm sure, David, you have experienced that. I've experienced it.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good spot then, that area.
Mhm.
I really do think it's a cultural shift. It's totally doable. It's not something unreasonable and practical that we're asking people to drive more safely. I just came back from a trip in the Okanagan cycling. They have a new bike trail, the Okanagan Rail Trail. And there's some parts that are like right on the road pretty much. And every car I encountered, fairly narrow road, similar to ours, winding, huge berth. They gave me like way more than the 1.5 meters, like every single car, with no attitude, no hostilities. But there were a lot more people too. Like this was, the Okanagan, a lot more people on bikes and stuff. So I think it's just getting used to that mentality that it's what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
Well, just on the topic of bikes, I'm in Victoria right now, and I've been riding the Lochside Trail. I've been riding the Galloping Goose Trail. This city is designed for bicycles, and they are gaining more and more presence. They're actually making more and more bike lanes through the city. It's amazing what's happening here. Everybody has a bicycle and everybody uses it. So we can do this on Bowen. Everybody's got to adopt this mentality that bikes have every right to be on the roads.
The flatness of the terrain probably helps that too.
Oh, it helps enormously for the development of these trails. But nonetheless, it's happening here. It can happen elsewhere.
Yeah.
I agree with Wendy. I've cycled around in Victoria a whole lot on both of those trails as well, the Lochside and the Galloping Goose. And it's amazing the investment that the Victoria, the city of Victoria, and the surrounding cities and the regional district are putting into bikes.
That's my point. You build it and people will use it.
Yeah.
I mean, just every age group is out there, like right from people who, are in retirement homes to little babies.
One of my favorite things, and get this, folks, is that you're cycling along the Lochside Trail and you come to some street. A lot of it's great. It's on old train tracks. And so you got overpasses and everything. It's really quite fabulous. And then you come to a street, but the street has a stop sign for the cars, but not for the bikes. Can you believe it? It's fantastic. You just cycle right through and the cars stop.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like,
Okay, reel it back in now. We got to get back to this agenda.
Okay, so I'll put an action item then for to find out from Hub if there's a date, or we come up with a date to do another event. What's the action item? Came out of that wonderful discussion.
I think it's so important that it's got to be in contact with the schools, because the kids are an important part of this.
Okay.
Do you want to do that, Emma? You want to talk to Bex and then you can talk to me and Wendy and David? Are you guys wanting to be a part of it again, kind of thing? So,
or you mean for the first time, since David forgot.
Yeah.
Make sure you'll get it on the next one, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got David and Caps, Wendy and Illy. Okay.
The RCMP from the last event, they were very clear that they are very excited and very happy to be a part of these type of events.
Oh, that's super.
Okay. Illy.
5.3, Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee. David,
Yeah.
Councillor Hocking?
Sure. So if you scroll through to whatever page that is, it's about page 12.
Want me to share screen it?
There it is, Sustainable Community Grant Program. And so I'm not sure if everyone's aware of this, but if you read the little blurby that we have, it's the CARIP is Climate Action Revenue Incentive Program. So all of the we track our actions. We send in a report to the province every year of the various actions we've taken to reduce emissions. And the emissions that we've reduced, we then get some money back. And it's sort of around $4,000 a year. And so the Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee, yeah, they have just set up a new process to figure out, it was sort of informal, the process of figuring out who got the grants and realizing, just a sec, this is a decent amount of money. We've got to develop a proper process. So if you go to no, everybody's not going to do this, but if you go to the Climate Action Committee's, let's see, it's the agenda from June, then it has the types of projects that are supported. And so it's just worth mentioning. I'll read through some of the bullets. So some of them don't apply to transportation, but a lot do. So it's for reductions of emissions of GHGs, using alternatives to personal vehicle transportation, and use of electric vehicles of all types on island and for trips off island. So the other stuff is to do with water and all kinds of other things, fire and so on, not our stuff. But any actions that we are involved in that can be attributed to a reduction in GHGs, we could then, anything that we plan to do could apply for these kinds of things. And there's an application form that they have, which that the committee has developed, and it's pretty easy to use, where you just sort of fill in the blanks of all the things that you're wanting to do. And then, so if we have some sort of community action that could involve reducing GHGs that we need a little bit of funding for, like in the category of, $1,000 or something like that, then we could fill in the application for this program. And I guess, Emma, it'd be great if you just shared that with everybody, sent that little application form around, and it's from the June, I'll do it. Yeah, the June 16th Environment and Climate Action Advisory Committee meeting agenda.
Okay, I'll do that.
How about helping with getting the electric car charging station going?
That was my question. When is that getting put in?
That's over to Emma.
I'm gonna bounce that to Patrick.
Welcome, Patrick. Thank you for joining us.
But
Go ahead.
I just had a comment on that about the community grant program, because there's also the Bowen Transportation Association, which is specific to Peter's bus, right? In the absence of now that Peter's retired, Richard always been talking about getting grants for an electric vehicle, like an electric bus. Maybe I can get this to them too, because I don't know if they're aware of this and how that dovetails into what they're trying to accomplish.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, that's a good idea. Yeah, send it to them. Yeah. Well, we're just that conversation about the Bowen Transportation Society. So I'm not on the board of that, but I'm an informal advisor. So I go to the board meetings. So you should just for everyone's awareness, they were going to apply to run the Bowen bus for the next year, but the current provider has an automatic 1-year extension, so it's not coming up until the end of 2021. So at that time, the Bowen Transportation Society would be hoping to apply for or put in a response to the RFP to run the Bowen bus. The tricky part about the Bowen Transportation Society, though, is that they have been operating the express bus going downtown, but with COVID and the lack of people going downtown, it's not operating right now. They will be putting out a new survey in the next couple of weeks to see if people are starting to commute and starting to want the bus back. And so there might be more news in the next little while on that.
Good. Thank you.
Do we want to pounce on Patrick about the electric charging station, or should we wait for, is that part of an update later on or anything?
No, you should do it now.
Okay,
Yeah.
Patrick, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a update on that to provide. We need the connection from BC Hydro, and I need to follow up with them.
The delay from BC Hydro.
I don't know. Honestly, I haven't had time to to deal with this, but it is important, so I will follow up on it.
I'm going to add a complication to that. And later on, I'm going to be talking about the multi-use path. But it's on the agenda. But one of the areas where the multi-use path would go would be right through the area where we were going to put the first charging station. And so it would have to move over a little bit towards the north.
Yeah, we did look at that today. We had our walkthrough with the consultant that's going to be designing the multi-use path for us. And yeah, it's just moving everything over by one stall. So including the handicap parking, the EV charging parking. So it shouldn't be a big deal.
Great.
Okay, I guess we can move on to 5.4, Emma, with the staff update.
Okay. Not me. Okay. So apologies. I was actually gone all last week and I did not get a chance to put together a presentation. So it's gonna wing it with a verbal one. I'm gonna share screen and just go over the report. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to browse it and go over any questions at the end. Hopefully I cover everything. Essentially, this year has been an odd one, as with everything else, COVID. We only have a handful of things. I'd say actually about a third of our work plan is looking good. We're fairly on schedule with the speed management project. That was the speed bylaw that went in to establish all of our speeds on the island. That is going for adoption at the next council meeting. And we have a work plan put together for 2021 for your review and recommendation to council this meeting. And the progress report, this is our first one, and hopefully we'll be doing a very similar report annually so we can compare over time the progress we're making towards the goals of the transportation plan. Transit tracking, we had the double map app for a little bit, and unfortunately that was not continued, budget issues with TransLink, and just trying to work out kind of a stopgap measure before they are looking to implement a system-wide GPS tracking, including community shuttles, but it will take several years for them to get that done. So in the meantime, trying to persuade them to consider a stopgap measure, something like a simple app on a smartphone, but we'll see. Alternative ferries, things like more passenger ferries, electric ferries, things like that. We're definitely keeping that idea alive when BC Ferries opens up engagement, like for the redevelopment of Horseshoe Bay Terminal, as well as the Stunt Cove Terminal. The Cardina pedestrian safety improvements are almost wrapped up. I think the only outstanding item at this point are the tactile walking surface indicators. So the yellow textured surfaces that you see for the vision impaired for bus loading areas. The pedestrian lighting was put in. I think it looks great. That's wonderful. The electric vehicle charging stations are also should be, imminent. Just need to get the connection with hydro. And we're working on the multi-use path wayfinding. We have all the pavement marking stencils, all the signage. It's just a matter of getting them all installed. We have the cycling network. What did we have from 2019? I think that was the road banner was part of that. And oh yeah, additional signage. That's the one where TAC kind of put all their input on the problem spots around the area for safer cycling, and we got some custom signs made. The single file, please do not pass cyclists, those signs. So we have the signs, those also just need to get put up. And in case everyone wasn't aware, Public Works, the roads crew staffing has been a big challenge this year. I think they're down to one person right now. So it's a matter of staffing resources to get all this signage installed. The pedestrian network was improvements to the.
Sorry, Emma, is one of the locations up in front of Grafton Lake for the bike safety?
I don't think so.
Just because I saw so much drama there this summer.
Yeah, I don't think it was pointed out because it's just a straightaway, right? And the most of the locations were like blind corners or like narrow roads.
Like the easiest pass on the whole island.
I know, that's why it's so curious.
Yeah.
Screeching tires.
People feel entitled to speed and they don't want the bike in the way. That's not good. We can definitely look at it next year, see what we could do about it. Yeah, but as far as for this year's work plan, I think that was it. Yeah, the improvements for the Seven Hills footpath, I don't think are going to happen. And we had decided on more bike parking, I think, for this year. I know that's confusing. With cycling network in there twice, but this was from last year, which was the signage, and then this year was like bike parking, bike racks. We actually have some extra bike racks sitting in public works storage, so I've been told. But again, we just don't really have the staff to mobilize those and install them. Multi-use path phase 1, as Patrick had mentioned, our new consultant was just here, so we're moving along as fast as possible, hoping to get those designs done this year and construction started next year. Park and ride incentives postponed for next year to consider. Not much transit activity this year. And these are more outreach, partnership, engagement kind of elements, all canceled for this year. So we'll reconsider them for next year. And the rest of the report was pretty much what I just talked about, I guess. And I just wanted to pull up the speed management project website. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to go there and check it out. This is our online engagement platform for the municipality right now. It's Citizen Lab. And we only really have the 2 projects. We had the composting project as well on here, but that one's done. So this is what it looks like. It has some background information on what is traffic calming, and then the timeline, background work. This is kind of just a compilation of research. And then the community engagement phase, which just ended last week, allowed people to comment and vote on the various different types of measures, as well as also add their own ideas. The engagement was, I wouldn't say like hugely successful. I think we got about 6 users actually vote or leave comments. So it gives us a little bit of an idea. The top voted traffic calming measures was reallocation of road space and pedestrian crossings, which sound good. For some reason, people didn't really like the interactive sign, which I thought was fairly popular, but I got 2 up, 2 down. And people didn't like the medians, having wider medians to narrow the lanes. So the next step now is just taking the feedback and developing a policy, which I'll bring back to TAC before going to council. So that's the speed management project. Hopefully we get a policy at the end that gives us a step-by-step process and criteria for evaluating speeding issues around the island and deciding what to do with them, what kind of traffic calming measures to implement.
Are we happy with that level of engagement?
I would like more, but there's not a lot of things to do right now with COVID. Like we can't invite people in for open houses or workshops. So it's really, it's very digital. And
I'm just worried you'll go through all this work, you'll come up with a policy, and then the first time you present it, it'll get torn apart for not having enough people vote on it.
well, if it's torn apart by council, I think council is also very aware of the limitations of engagement right now, as with every other project that needs engagement. If it's being torn apart by the public and they're actually writing in or virtually attending the meetings to speak out, that in itself is a form of engagement. So I'm fine with that. If they have an opinion to add, at that point, it'll just postpone the adoption process. But if that's what it takes for them to speak, you know, that's fine too.
Okay.
Unless you have any ideas to.
I was just wondering if there was something we, like if there was another step we could go back and extend that period and try something else, whether it's a social, I don't even have social media for Bowen, but if there's some way we could generate buzz about it that got people to do it, even if somebody went on Facebook and said, hey, if you don't fill out this form, they're going to put speed bumps in your neighborhood or on your commute or something like that, and I'm sure you'd get people ranting about it.
I guess. I mean, it was on all the municipal social media channels. So the municipal Facebook page and Twitter account, it had been out for a couple weeks. So there were a couple like whatever posts, and it was also in the municipal newsletter, e-newsletter that goes out. I got a couple emails from people. But yeah, we have a policy where we don't really go onto other non-municipal social media channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could speak to this, but I mean, I agree with Tyler that it sure would be a whole lot better to have more people than that to be able to then point to, well, we had a whole lot of people providing input. But the trouble is on things like this, you know, most people sort of won't notice, won't pay attention until they find out they're going to be speed bumps in their neighborhood or whatever. And then suddenly it becomes a big deal. It's just how things are. I'm sorry. I also feel that Emma did a great job just in structuring the report, because the way it sort of worked through that little section that says how appropriate this is for Bowen, like a lot of them just aren't for kind of obvious reasons. And in my conversation with Emma, I said, like, to some degree, this isn't a public opinion thing. This is a technical thing. It's, you know, what'll work and what won't work. And it's sort of like when you're going to build a new bridge, do you put it out to the public to say, should we make this out of steel or balsa wood? And because a lot of them, there are only a few of them that really work technically on Bowen. And anyway, I think it's, you know, we put it out there. Emma's tried. And so we have at least said we did everything we could to get it out to the public ahead of time.
Yeah, and I think also at the time of, this is really to address a lot of those concerns that the community brings to council. You know, like a resident in a neighborhood is asking council to put in a speed bump. And this will help council, you know, have clear direction for how to handle those requests. And as a part of the policy and just going on best practices, what we found other communities do is that one resident generally isn't enough to make the request something that that would be considered. So if a resident was really concerned, they would have to start a petition or something and get past a certain threshold of residents interested. It might be cost sharing involved, or so it's not just a straight like top down, like this is the policy. If there's a car going this fast, we're going to stick a speed bump in there. There will be a lot of community involvement to get anything, you know, installed in the community. So I don't think this will be like, it shouldn't be as controversial as that, I think.
So what's that, Philip?
Sounds good.
I just have a comment about this. I'm a little bit worried about this dragging on because we are getting requests for speed bumps. You know, I was invited to a meeting with one of the RCMP officers on the island by a resident on Seymour Bay Drive, who had been following up with Public Works a lot about the safety, the dangerous issue about construction traffic on that new development down there, going very fast over a blind hill, wanting me to install a speed bump. And I don't really know what to do with that. And I don't really know what to tell them. So it's an awkward situation where, you know, there's an obvious safety issue that we have no real guidance on how to address.
Yeah, I've actually talked with that fella. Yeah, we've actually talked about the short-term rental thing too. So, you know, we have, we've discussed before, and he's aware of this whole process, and he understands the need to have it fair and consistent and why we need the policy. So he's on board, and he's also actually, sounded pretty excited to be kind of the first to actually have the policy implemented for his neighborhood. So I think he's happy to work with us on that. I haven't heard anything otherwise since we talked. I mean, he did follow up with an email saying that he's gone through the website and given some feedback, but yeah, I think he would be a great test case, if you will. I don't want to say test case, but like, yeah, to kind of to see how well this whole process would work.
Okay. I do get correspondence from him. It would be useful to have something to provide in terms of a timeline. Like, this is what the process we're going through. This is when we expect to have, you know, some sort of answers on how these requests will be handled.
Yeah, so I gave him the same timeline that's on the website, and the engagement is just wrapped up. So the draft of the policy hopefully will go to council in October.
Good.
Did Wendy have something to contribute to this speed calming discussion?
Oh, I thought we were talking about that at 6.2.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Oh, I mean, this is pretty much the update for that. I don't know if, I don't have much more to add to it. So if Wendy has a concern about traffic calming or speeding or car safety, I think this is probably.
Well, why don't we can discuss that now, since we're discussing
Sure.
this kind of stuff.
Okay.
Wendy, you want to?
Yeah, I had 2 incidences over the summer, both on long weekends. So clearly I'm pretty sure they were tourists who maybe they were delayed coming up the trunk road from the ferry in their cars, because the ferry had already loaded. So there's no cars going down the trunk road left in the lanes that we line up in. And these two different incidences, 2 different weekends, I almost had head-on collisions. And if it's happened to me twice, then it's happened to other people, where you come over that lip beside the school field and you can't see what's coming up the hill. And I've come over the hill and there's a car coming right at me. And I'm wondering, and I can see the confusion, because if they haven't noticed there's a yellow line dividing the lanes, they may think that those other 2 ferry lines are regular traffic coming down the hill. And I'm just wondering if we need some kind of an arrow painted on the road as you come up the hill, and maybe one when you go down, I don't know, just to inform people which lane they should be in.
It's probably where instead of, they didn't notice that you have to turn left at,
It could be that they
you know, they just kept going straight. So like right at that intersection, if you have, so, you know, you're coming up and you, right after you pass Miller, whatever, you have one arrow pointing up and one arrow pointing down, showing that if you go, you can't go straight there, you got to turn, even though there is a must turn thing in there already. But
I mean,
that's probably what happened.
Yeah, if there are two lines of traffic waiting to go onto the ferry, it's very clear. And then the yellow line is dividing the two lanes. But in this case, I was coming down the hill and it's wide open, right? So these people are trying to orient themselves, and the whole time they're in the wrong lane. And it was really scary both times.
I bet.
I think just to speak out on this, I think that's a good idea. I think another area how they could have got confused, Wendy, is if they came out of the little shopping center there,
Yeah.
Above the corner, and you come out, you don't know Bowen Island, and it looks like you got a 4-lane road
Exactly.
ahead of you with 2 lanes going down and 2 lanes going up. So I pick one of those 2 lanes. Oh, I'll go in the fast lane, whatever. And so I think actually that's a pretty good idea to have arrows on those 2 lanes so that somebody coming out of the little shopping area would know what the heck they're supposed to do.
Great, thanks for this. This is really helpful. Yeah, so it's basically these 2 lanes. Now, anybody who knows how to drive and knows the rules of the road, if there's a yellow line, it's dividing the 2 lanes. But not everybody pays attention to those things. So just a simple arrow, just kind of the same as what you've got when you come off the ferry, just to give people the indication that they're on the right road. I don't think it would be that big a deal, and I don't think it would be too much information. You know, like I know there's a lot of people that complain about too many signs and on Bowen, but I think just a simple arrow could offset or prevent an accident. Because I'm sure, as I say, if it's happened to me twice, it's happened to other people.
I've seen it happen too, way back when I was driving on the island.
Oh,
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
Yeah.
We can make a recommendation to council as a committee.
Because we can see the arrows that are on the road until the 4 corners.
Yeah.
You know, we just moving that up the hill a couple of.
Yeah, I'm still sharing screen, I guess. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but I just.
That's good.
Yeah,
So this is a turning lane coming
Yes.
up.
So where you have the arrow right there would be an arrow pointing, back up across the road there. You would have an arrow pointing towards the ferry on that side. On the other side, you'd have an arrow pointing up towards the school, showing travel.
You could have it in 2 places. You could have it in the place you were looking a moment ago, so you come out of the 4 corners, and you could also have it above the driveway going into the shopping plaza up there on the hill.
So I'm curious, Patrick, do you have any thoughts on this?
On
One staff.
yeah, I mean, I don't have.
Arrows on this one?
It makes sense to have clear marking on the roads. I guess my question is, we need, who's going to come up with the plan for that? Because we also have, like we talked about this morning with the multi-use path discussion, that whole intersection, Miller Road and Bowen Island Trunk Road, needs to be redesigned. So, whatever we do in terms of, new crossing of Miller Road for the multi-use path, or new pavement markings on one or more sides of the intersection, we should really have an overall plan for what that intersection should be, what we're working towards.
a kind of as a stopgap until we do have a comprehensive full intersection plan. I mean, I think it'd be fairly simple to put down the arrows. I'm just wondering if that would, if you see it posing any traffic problems.
I can't see a problem with it. No.
The only potential that I see, and this is, you know, is if you put them where your arrow is now, oh, not now, but back up where you're exiting Village, if you put it there, then maybe there might be confusion with the lineup and, you know, the everything with the ferry itself. Whereas if you have it down below, then it's pretty clear. It's just a travel direction. That's my only input.
It may also look like a sign for straight ahead only.
Like no turning.
No
Yeah.
turning, yeah.
Right.
But then on the other side, I mean, on the other side with the arrow that's already there, aside from the one where, yes, you are supposed to turn, the other arrow does not mean you can't turn right. So, you know, I don't know. It's, I think just where your little marker is right now, Emma, having one arrow pointing up, one pointing down, probably will cause a lot of the confusion to be gone.
And also, I mean, I'm not, this is kind of old. I think it's 4 years old, the aerial photography, but shouldn't the lane have a stop bar? Because that's usually a good indication for people. You know,
Yeah, that's another thing.
of the direction. There's no stop bar. Like here, there's a stop bar.
There's
And
no
here,
stop.
There's a stop bar.
There's no stop sign.
There's no stop sign.
No,
There's no pub.
And there's no crosswalk. The only reason the other side has a line is because of a crosswalk, and there's no crosswalk on the other side.
You're right. Yeah.
Just thinking about this, if you have an arrow, a straight arrow, people will take, you know, some people will take that to mean there's no left turn, right? Which isn't the case.
right. Yeah.
I think even though this picture's that old, I do recall, I think that's how it is, because when I would try to jaywalk, I'd be like, oh no, kids, we better go down to that corner where there's a crosswalk. So as of even 2 months ago, that's probably relevant to how it is right now.
Well, the uphill arrow would be less controversial.
And I think honestly, I think we just need the uphill. I think the uphill arrow is all that's required. I don't think we need an arrow going the other way.
That's true.
And the other idea I had is even though we've only got 2 ferry lanes, you know, when you go to other ferry terminals, they've got the lanes numbered. And there was every so often, like we called them lane 1 and lane 2, then that would indicate that they are ferry lineup lanes. So if you had the lanes marked 1 and 2, and you had like maybe 2 arrows going up the trunk road, then the lane going down into the cove can remain information free.
Do we want to, so we should send this to council as a suggestion? As in,
It would be staff directions, so just the council direct staff to paint arrows or consider painting markings on the lanes to eliminate directional confusion.
yeah. Is there some way to include a picture of this intersection like this with an example of what we're talking about? Because I think if you're not looking at it, it could totally get, you know,
What you're talking about.
I think for council, there would need to be a picture like this. And I think the simplest way is to just simply have an arrow on the up lane, just above the corner, and an arrow on the up lane, just above where the driveway comes out of the shopping plaza. 2 arrows like that, like to put numbers on the ferry lanes would be a huge issue and cause long debate. But I think just simple 2 arrows going up to show people who are new to the island, hey, here's where you go up. I think that would probably be, I think it could be justified as a safety issue and explained quite simply.
But what, not even a down arrow though at that same driveway?
Well, the problem with the down arrow is as I think it was,
Right. Yeah.
it suggests you can't turn, and that,
Right.
so that's the problem. Meaning you could have a down arrow and a right turn arrow, and then a left turn arrow, it becomes, oh my God, this is an everything thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Just
two arrows,
would-
I think is simple.
Yeah.
The thing about the numbering the ferry lanes, what Wendy says is that people driving in the ferry lineup, I don't know if you guys have had this experience. I find that quite disconcerting. Where I'm going to turn right into the general store thinking I'm in the right lane and there's suddenly someone to my right going straight because they're driving down the ferry lane.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that happens a lot. And same.
And I've actually talked to someone about it and they think
Yeah.
it's their right to do that, but I don't think it's right.
No, it's not.
Right? So numbering those lanes would be like, this is actually a ferry lane. It's not a road.
Unfortunately, though, I mean, it would get into the world of the ridiculous, because it's like if somebody actually thinks that they should do that, then, you know, really, like, there's only so much you can say. There should be common sense rules of the road that just aren't, you know, people don't have them. So.
Yeah. Okay, I've got that the committee recommend that council direct staff to paint arrows on Bowen Island Trunk Road between corners and Village Square to indicate lane direction.
to
Collisions.
to dispel or to get rid of directional confusion or something like that.
Eliminate, reduce.
Eliminate, reduce, yeah. Traffic flow, directional issues.
Traffic flow direction. Confusion caused by ferry lanes.
Sure. By people not knowing, or it's basically what I'm sure what it is that people are going through the left-hand turn lane and continuing straight when they don't have any other traffic around there to show them, right?
There, it's already clearly marked as a left turn lane. And so
Mhm.
that's just people not paying attention,
Yep.
which, you know, you can only do so much about.
But I think putting those arrows there, it's just one more reminder, you know? I mean, if they're not going to notice the left-hand turn arrow, they're not going to notice the other arrow either. But at least we've done everything we can, kind of thing, right? So,
Can I get a vote on that?
oh, sorry?
Can I get a vote?
Oh, a vote, yes. Everybody in favor?
Yep.
Any opposed? And I'm yup in there too, obviously. Great, carried.
Can I get another vote? Just, it helps me with resolution tracking, just to say that you've received the traffic calming report for information. Helps me track.
Sorry?
Can I get a vote saying that you've all received the traffic calming report for information?
Oh, yes. Has everybody received the traffic calming report for information?
Yep.
Yes. Yes. Nobody hasn't? Perfect. Everybody has.
Thank you.
And Emma, you need a recommendation to approve your work plan as.
Work plan, yeah, and did everyone get a chance to go over the work plan?
So,
I can just sum it up. It's nothing crazy, pretty much what you see every year. The only new things that were added, we have the implementation of the speed management element. So once we get that policy done, we're actually asking for a $2,000 budget from council to implement traffic calming measures each year as they come up. Not to say we definitely will, but there's also the footpath lighting element. And this was a project to improve pedestrian safety. We would cost share installation of motion censored lighting in key areas as a community collaboration kind of project with a budget of $5,000, and that's to acquire the lights. Motion, essentially some budget to have events like the road safety event, but something bigger, more elaborate, more involved. And then the rest of this is what we do every year. The park and ride incentives has been postponed to next year, so it's part of the work plan. Other than that, any questions? The bulk of the budget is for the multi-use path phase 1, which is carried over from last year.
Anybody have any?
Oh, sorry, I've highlighted in case I forgot. So A4 pedestrian network, we're carrying over those Miller Road footpath improvements that we never got around to this year. But for the cycling network, just wanted to see what everyone felt like would be worthwhile to look at for next year. I think I put park and bike as a suggestion here. That's kind of like strategic locations where people can park and drop off their kids or something to bike the rest of the way, either to connect to the ferry or get to school. Have some bike racks, maybe storage lockers or something like that. Just an idea. I think that came out of some other cycling report. But if we're gonna ask for budget, we should actually have a specific idea of what we want to improve on the cycling network.
I don't remember that being an option coming up. Maybe that was before me or something, but I don't know. Does anybody else?
I see a lot more people with electric bikes,
Yeah.
or electric powered bikes, and there's a nice shed on the dock for getting out of the weather, but there's no power in that shed, so there's no mechanism to actually recharge.
Yeah, so that shed's actually one of the first projects we did out of the transportation plan. I guess it was a bit before your time. And we did want to put charging in there for both the bikes and the scooters. But we discovered getting that connected to the grid would trespass on BC Ferry's property, and to redo all that was just cost prohibitive at this point. Okay. So the redevelopment of the terminal, we have asked BC Ferries to get us power.
What is that cost if we know it off the top of our heads? Is it a no-go, or just like, hey, it's going to be,
Well, we were going to be able to afford the solar panels with the CARIP funding, and I think that was in the area of $5,000. But to actually get the electrical infrastructure to get that set up was well in excess of $10,000.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm personally not sure about, I mean, maybe this is just me coming from my personal experience, but if somebody's going, are you talking about biking, like driving to someplace on Bowen to then be able to bike on Bowen? Or are you talking about driving in and parking and then taking your bikes on the ferry to go into town?
No, the first
one? Okay. Yeah, because I think, quite frankly, the parking that you would use anyways already exists.
But it's going away too.
Well, is
over
it?
Time.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm thinking of, like, obviously you can't really park in the school so much anymore, kind of thing. I mean, you can, but I'm just wondering where those places would be, like, because you would drive to go to by the recycling depot or whatever, so you can bike through there. You go over to the other side off of Miller's to bike from there, or you go down. I'm just wondering what we're talking about as far as creating parking spots specifically for that. I just don't know if that would be received very well, or if it's even necessary.
Yeah, or it might not even be parking spots, but a place to drop off a cyclist. And again, that was just a suggestion, and I think it came out of, a recent report that was like things for rural communities to help increase biking.
Probably increased parking at the school somehow, since that seems to be where people go to park and then venture out, but that's on their land, isn't it, kind of thing? So,
Mhm.
but I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. Does anybody else want to champion it or talk about or another idea or something? I don't know. I don't have a suggestion of something alternatively, but
Is
hard
this the
to do.
timeline for today? Sorry,
sorry.
go ahead. Emma, when do you need these ideas by?
Well, ideally, we should be making a recommendation to council to approve this work plan. If we don't really have a strong,
Yes.
improvement for the cycling network, I think we should take it off the work plan. We shouldn't be asking for money for something that we don't need.
Tyler?
I would rather probably see that money go to pedestrian network, Miller Road footpath at this point, since there's not a lot of small gains to be made in the cycling infrastructure world on Bowen. There's nowhere to cycle. So, yeah, there's nowhere on Bowen I'd recommend somebody take a kid to ride a bike, except for by the recycling center and in the parks trails, which already have parking.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree too.
So, I mean, you can recommend the work plan amended, remove A5.
I would recommend that. Yeah.
I support
And
Second that
C5 too, correct?
C5?
Park and ride incentives.
Oh no, park and ride incentives isn't to do with the biking. We actually have a park and ride. It's at the Satellite Fire Hall on Adams Road.
Okay.
And several spots were put in, and it was actually quite requested when we were doing the engagement back in 2016, especially by the Cowan Point neighborhood residents. But after it got put in, we've done a couple stop-bys to check on the counts, and it's never been used. So there's funding from TransLink to encourage park and ride usage. So they will pay for some incentives. We just have to come up with the incentives.
Understood.
You know what, Emma, I'm not sure I got this part of the, I'm not sure I got this email because I can't find where I have this in front of me.
I'm not seeing it either.
It was attachment 2
Attachment to what?
to the report.
There's attachment 1 and attachment 2. Oh, this is my fault. Hold on.
No.
Oh, I see, done to that, okay.
Maybe it never made it into the package.
Yeah, I don't, it's not in all the additional stuff.
I've got
Okay.
attachment 1 and 2 for the traffic calming report, and then I've got a.
Well, it's
Oh, there
it's
we go.
just the staff report attachments. Wait, is this
BIMTAC report. Oh,
And
5
school
pages.
travel plan too? So I guess this report never went out. Did it go out, Steph?
The report went out, but I don't see the attachment.
The attachments?
Yeah.
Because I also attached the school travel plan that was completed last year.
I don't
And
think I got any of that actually.
yeah. Is that a problem, Steph, or can we retroactively send them out?
Yeah. I can do part of a revised agenda.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. You know what it was? It was because remember the report came separate email. It fell off the first one and then went on the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I was just using that top email. Sorry.
Okay.
Forward this
That's okay.
to
Yeah.
you
But the
guys.
school
Sorry about
travel
that.
plan is also important because it has a whole bunch of stuff that we were supposed to consider. The committee is supposed to consider for implementation each year.
Yeah, that is a part, what you're looking at right there. That is actually in this.
Yeah, it's part of the staff update report, but
Yeah.
the attachment of the actual school travel plan was one of the attachments.
Yeah, no, I have that part. It was just the part before that you were showing with the work plan. I don't have.
Yeah, that's also important.
Okay, here it
Progress
is.
report.
The progress
get-
report one, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, weird. Okay. Well, do you want to take a look again? I could scroll back up to here.
Well, I think, I mean, other than the only things that were changed were that one that we'd want to remove, right?
Yeah, we're going to take out A5, so no
Five.
cycling network improvement. And then new for 2021 was the footpath lighting, cycling promotion, and the park and ride incentives, which was postponed from this year.
And then do we want to try to, if we're going to ask for that $5,000, instead of having it in A5, putting it into pedestrian network? Is that pedestrian network part of the 7 Hills?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, TAC, you
Or
can.
not? I mean,
Yeah, if everyone agrees, we could definitely do that. I was just going off of the transportation plan, which was really just looking at an approximate $25,000 improvement each year.
right. Okay.
So, and for the pedestrian network A4 with the $25,000. So I'm trying to remember what we have for Miller Road and going up that hill. Did we actually we had a consultant look at it, and did they give a price, an estimate for the price? I'm trying to remember.
No, they gave a report with a number of recommendations.
And I'm trying to remember, I'm sorry, but the details, did we have one that sort of deals with 25,000?
The main ones that we were going to look at was putting in a fog line, so the white line that demarcates the edge of the road.
Oh, yeah.
So that's clear that the rest of that area was for pedestrians. And also to narrow some of those lanes to give more pedestrian area. There was also cleaning up of some of the vegetation. There's a lot of trees and bushes that are obstructing the edge of the road. And then I think there was something about the parking, trying to discourage parking on the lower sections.
So the Bowen Rocks.
Yeah,
maybe, yeah.
So 25,000, what we would have to, we've got then, and a rough estimate for 25,000. We then have to come up with a detailed work plan for this and get somebody to price it for us. That's what we would do?
I think this would be more of an operational thing for Public Works. I don't think any of the recommendations, other than there was one which was to redo that crossing, the crossing at that culvert on Miller Road around the bend.
Right.
The geometry was really bad. That one I think would need a proper plan and more work and budget. But things like painting a fog line, I don't think we need a consultant or a special plan or anything.
So would the 25,000 cover all the work that you think? I mean, when this goes to council, I'll be asked the details. Well, what are you going to spend $25,000 on? And I don't want to be fuzzy.
Yeah, that would be something, I guess, I'd have to talk to Patrick to get a more detailed estimate.
Sure.
Yeah.
From the cycling perspective, the repainting of the fog line on Miller Hill, if $5,000 went to that, that's probably the best bang for the buck cycling improvement that you could get on Bowen with a bit of paint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And maybe there's other places that need it as well. I'm just thinking, if we're asking in this for that 5,000, let's not get rid of it. Let's add it to something where we could use it. And if that's a suggestion, then maybe put it there. So it'd be 30 instead of 25. But again, if you don't have the plan to back it up, then yeah, it'll look like a lot of money, maybe, that could be spent somewhere else.
I mean, for this to go to council, I'd like to have a plan for each of those chunks of dough, other than the multi-use path, because that's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't want it to go to council.
Okay. So I guess the A8, the speed management, the budget of $2,000 is just in anticipation of having to implement some traffic calming measures, but not that there is any specific one
Right.
that
That's-
we're going to do.
Yeah.
So is something like that premature? Like, should we only be going to council once the community has brought something forward and we've looked at it and we've decided on something exactly that we're going to implement, and then go to council the next year and ask for money?
I would
It's just
think so
slower.
for what you just said for A8, that's perfectly fine because you've got a detailed report that looks at all the options, you know, and Patrick's getting people to say, what are you going to do about this? And okay, so we don't know exactly what the $1,000 would be for, but there's a whole bunch of options that have been carefully laid out, and you know, staff can figure out what's best and so on after council develops a policy. So that's sort of a reasonable size chunk of money to implement something that you've already done a whole bunch of work on, and we've got, you know, a clear need to do. But for the $25,000, that's a different kind of thing. That's a big chunk of dough that we have a plan before it even comes to council, because council doesn't have any money right now, and anything like $25,000 is a big deal. So that's sort of, you know, it would have to be carefully laid out as to what it is. The A8 perfectly, you know, that's fine, no problem at all. And the 5,000 for a cycling network as well. You know, we've got people like Birch Housing asking for little chunks of money that are around this side, and we can't find a way of giving it to them. So 25,000 is huge.
So I think in this case that makes total sense. Maybe we have to defer this recommendation after I talk to Patrick and we can get a more detailed cost plan.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. The only question now is we do want to make this in before the whole you know, budgeting process, which usually takes place in, or supposed to be in October.
This is the concierge, all 3 levels.
Okay. So I guess the question for Steph is, do we need another full like TAC meeting to pass this recommendation?
Well, you could do it by email. That can be a little messy, but I think if we could do a 45-minute, 30-minute Zoom meeting, it'd be a better process. If anybody's okay to do that.
A one-item agenda where we have this, you know.
We already have one scheduled for Tuesday, October 6th.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. But just make that one like a quickie.
Yeah.
Is everybody else able to do that? Or do we need a poll?
October 6th?
Already scheduled, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I'm good
Something else.
for now, as far as I can see.
And that's at 7 p.m., right? Or 7:15
Yeah.
or whatever, so.
So Tanis can participate as well.
And then I'll try to have the revised work plan and the more detailed cost estimates out beforehand so you guys can review it before. the
Thank you,
meeting.
Emma.
So we're just gonna defer that motion.
I just wanted to go over the progress report really quick because it's our first one, and get everyone's feedback on the format. I want every report to be fairly consistent in the format so that we can compare easily over time. Essentially, it starts off with an executive summary. You know, you don't have to read the whole thing, kind of sums up the highlights. The intro talks about the growth and development over the year, which on Bowen is usually quite minimal. We have a couple new roads, little ones like Foxglove Lane, where the Stud Cove House is, up in Parkview Slopes, there's a little section, and then Seymour Bay is also building out a little bit more road. Highlights on what we accomplished over the year. This would be from 2018 to 2019. We got the active transportation guidelines out. We updated our road standards. We did the study on the Seven Hills pedestrian safety issues, Cardina improvements, a lot of improvements there. We had that transportation innovation forum where we invited different service providers and talked about various alternative transportation options. We're still working with TransLink about the transit tracking, and we tried out the Double Map app. We did parking inventory for commuter parking. we completed the bike barn, and we completed school travel planning. So I kind of like how it summed everything up. In bits and pieces, it doesn't like we're doing much, but you know, we actually got a lot done over
That
that
looks
time.
good, Emma. It's good.
Yeah, and the metrics that we had agreed on, this is not all of them, but these are the main ones. There were quite a few that I couldn't get reliable data for, or any data. So those didn't make it on here. But between 2018 and 2019, for the ones that I did have data, I tried to lay this out as simply as possible, but still meaningful. So I gave the 2018 value, the 2019 value, and then a little indicator for, was that positive change or was it negative change? And as you can see, like, well, green is for positive, and then those that didn't change at all got like a beige indicator. And pretty much all of our metrics had good progress. So that's really good, but the progress was small. And it's hard to tell. So then I put in this little pie thing to kind of tell you like the magnitude of the progress. Yeah, I don't know exactly how effective that is, especially over 1 year. It's hard to say. But how does everyone feel about this? Once we start getting a couple of years under our belts, I think this would make more sense. Like seeing these progress pie charts fill up. Once it's full, then I gave it a kind of green shading. These ones aren't like super meaningful. I mean, our commuter parking and our park and ride parking kind of met the industry standard, 15% availability on average. But the other stuff like our electric vehicle charging, we have none, we only want one. So we have no progress right now. Hopefully we can tick that one off next year. Yeah, so the circles kind of give you an indication how close we are to getting to our target. I think our cycle and walk mode shares have a lot of work to do. Yeah, just kind of at a glance, it gives you a better idea of where we're at.
Oh, I like that.
It might be nice to see going forward what the change is in this year since the last report on the pie chart. So if there was if there's any applicable fields where last year we had accomplished 55% and this year we're moving up to 60, seeing that 10% increase as you know, the progress being talked about in this report might be a nice visual, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like another column for that.
I was just, if you can do a multicolor pie chart,
yeah,
just
I thought about that too. I was just also concerned about like if it was negative progress,
yeah.
then I need another color and it might start looking a little confusing. I also included at the very end as an appendix the actual numbers from baseline starting in 2016. So this will always be there every year, the baseline numbers, and then the current year. So you can kind of gauge from the start to now what the progress was, and then in the actual report it kind of shows you from last year to this year what the progress was.
Sounds good.
Yeah, very good.
No, I think it looks great.
Excellent. And then just talk about next steps, kind of things that we're focused on to kind of move us forward. This will sound really familiar because it's kind of stuff we've been trying to finish this year, and we have finished quite a few of these things. That's it.
Cool.
Anything else you think we should have in this report?
Looks very good, Emma. I like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it too.
Okay.
It's all easy to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Excellent. Okay, that's it for me.
What does the negative look like? Is it a frowny face in red?
Yeah, in like the orange color I was going to use. I thought I'd have a couple, but we don't really.
I'm glad you don't.
Yeah, I had it, I made it, but I didn't need to use it. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Thanks.
I guess that's it, Emma, right, for your section there?
I think so. Yep.
And then we'll just wait and get that other information from you for the October 6th. Quick
I
meeting.
sent the attachments, sorry about that. They just got left off, which
We can go through them. Okay, new business. So me first talking about high school travel. I'm a brand new, I've got a grade 8 kid. Oh my God, I can't believe it. And so all of a sudden that whole world has opened up for me. There was obviously a whole bunch of concern going on with COVID and how school was looking and whether or not our kids could get to and from Rockridge and everything on the bus. It all worked out. You'll be all happy to know. So I'm not sure. That was more of a, Steph, remind me, was there anything else to talk about with that? Or was it just that there was so much concern before and it appears to have worked itself out?
yeah, I think we didn't know how it was going to go.
Yeah.
So there may have been something for the committee to discuss, and maybe
Yeah,
not.
no, it was pretty, there was a lot of conversations going on with a lot of worried parents. So it's all good. So I don't have anything really more to say about that. Then I guess, David, you wanted to talk more about.
Yeah. I'll just talk a little bit about UBCM, the meetings we've had. So we at UBCM, we get an opportunity to have an array of meetings with different ministers, and they're pretty condensed, 20-minute meetings, but they've been pretty good. So I'll talk about we had with Jordan Sturdy, he was in on, most of them, and a separate meeting with him, with Minister Heyman, Environment and Climate Change Strategy, and with Minister Trevena on transportation. So with Heyman, talked about a couple of things, but I also talked about our multi-use path and talked about the multi-use path also with the Minister of Transportation. And the reason for that is we've had, I don't know if everyone's aware of this, probably not, but we've had an interesting development. So Metro Vancouver has put out a draft Greenway strategy for the whole region. And right on the draft Greenway strategy is our multi-use path, which is pretty great. And Maureen has been chatting with, because she's our parks rep at Metro, she's been chatting with them about the Greenways strategy, and they wanted to focus on 3 across the region. And one of them might be our Bowen one, because of the work that we've been putting into it already. So we've got, the phase 1 that we're working on right now. You've heard all about that, and the contract has been let, and we could have construction next year. But then the rest of it will be pretty expensive. So to get Metro Vancouver keen on it, then they're not going to come up with money, but they add interest to the province. And so we presented that to the 2 ministers as something that aligns with their active transportation strategy that they brought out. It's part of the climate change plan for the climate change minister, and it's part of the transportation plan for Trevena. They put that out last year. So we talked about both of them and talked about potential funding, and there looks like there might be some opportunities for funding. They like the idea of the fact that we've got funding already for parts of it, and that Metro Vancouver is interested. So we're, presented that to them, and Liam, our CAO, was connected with them in terms of the funding opportunity. So that's one good thing. Then with the transportation ministry, we talked about electric ferries. Allison gave a presentation on an electric ferry downtown, and talking about how that would reduce the need to drive downtown. I then talked about our climate action plan and how much of it is about transportation, and the 3 elements: driving from Horseshoe Bay to downtown, and Allison's electric ferry sort of addresses that. But then talked about the other parts, driving on Bowen, and so I got back into the multi-use path on that and potential funding. But then I talked about the whole BC ferries, the electric ferry, and the foot passenger service, just to Horseshoe Bay. And then I referred to that visioning exercises that some of you, if you go to BC Ferries, you'll see this visioning plan that was just announced about a week ago, less than a week ago. And I managed to read it the night before the meeting with Trevena, which was useful, because it's a Coastal Ferries Phase 2 report. If you Google that, you'll find it. And they talk about car-free transit, car-free travel in there, especially for us and for Langdale, for, you know, the commuting type folks. And then part of this, it's a consultation report. One of the questions was, what would make you more likely to travel as a foot passenger? And the top one was better connections with transit. Also was availability of passenger only service, and also connections with new travel modes at terminals. So I sort of highlighted all those three. And then I said, but when you look at the rebuilding strategy for the terminal at Horseshoe Bay right now, you don't see any of these things. You see basically a much nicer and more pleasant version of the 1950s terminal that we still have today, that's just sort of based all around cars. And that, you know, we don't see anything in there about foot passenger ferries. We don't see anything there about electrification. And we don't see anything there about other modes of transportation getting a priority over cars. It was interesting that the minister, I thought, what I tried to do with all the presentations with the ministers is compliment them on something and then ask for something else. But this was more about, you know, not complimenting, but complaining. Interestingly, she responded in quite a positive way. She recognized that we need to move more towards foot passenger and electric service, and that, and she even, I talked about, you know, this should be a 50-year plan and it shouldn't look like the last 50 years. And she brought that up again. Yeah, we need a 50-year plan that looks forward and is more in line with where we could be going. So what that means exactly, I don't know. But the message clearly was heard. Then I heard the day later that she's now resigning. So we also presented to the forestry minister about logging on Bowen, and then heard that he's resigning as well, after he gave us set up a fairly positive progress on logging. But anyway, it was interesting whether, you know, she had a bunch of staff there, how well they heard all that, and whether we'll see any changes at Horseshoe Bay. I mean, they've got no money to do this giant thing right now, so maybe there'll still be more work on that. Anyway, that's what we did, and that's what happened so far.
Cool. Great. Awesome. Okay, I think that's it, folks. Next meeting then, October 6th. We'll send it out. What time is it? 7 p.m.? 7:15? I can't remember.
It should be out. You should have it in your calendars.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an evening meeting.
Cool. But just, yeah, we'll make that one a short one. And yeah, I guess I call the meeting to adjournment.
Hey, thanks, folks.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Thanks.
everybody take care. We'll see you all later.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Do you need me for anything, staff? Oh, she left.
Sure.